The graphic novel I chose was Miles Morales, The Ultimate Spider-Man, and the creative team behind this. The writer is Brian Michael Bendis. The artists are Sarah Pacelli, Chris Somney, and David Marquez. The colorer is Justin Ponser, and the letter is Corey Petty. The publisher is Buckley, and it's 265 pages long. And technically, it's not a graphic novel. It's a compilation of 12 issues getting put together to make a graphic novel, but it still has a beginning, middle, and an end. And the story, the main character is Miles Morales, and this is basically who we follow throughout the whole story. And his goal is to become Spider-Man, try to become maybe a better Spider-Man is in his eyes. It's just trying to live up to Spider-Man legacy. Because spoiler alert, he dies in this comic book, so he has to live up the responsibility in becoming Spider-Man. And to me, Act 1 ends on page 79, and I know that seems like a long Act 1, but to me, I think that's where it ends, because the whole Act 1 is just him trying to figure out his powers and how to use them, and basically denying his powers and doesn't want to use them until Peter Parker dies and he decides to be the new Spider-Man, and that happens right at the Act 1 ends at page 79, so that happens at page 80 of him wearing the suit. Let me just show you. And wearing the suit of Spider-Man, and this is Miles Morales, Spider-Man old costume before he dons the new. So it doesn't fit into our model of having a short Act 1 and Act 3 and a long Act 2. This mostly has a long Act 1, a long Act 2, and a short Act 3. And I think it's that way because of it was a separate 12 issues and they put it together to make it a graphic novel, their way of a graphic novel. And Miles Morales has an arc because he starts off as a small, kind of naive, innocent boy who's trying to have a normal life, and then he gets his powers, and he becomes Spider-Man, and he has to fight the villains, and he has to grow up really fast, and he ends up killing someone close to him, which is his uncle, because his uncle is another character in the story that has an arc, because the uncle takes care of Miles when he was a little kid and even till he's older, and then Miles ends up fighting his uncle. Ultimately, at the end, his uncle dies by the hands of Miles. And that's basically like the two people that actually have an arc in the story. I mean, there's other characters in there, the mom, but and the best friend, but you really don't see any of them have an arc or a story. It's just mostly Uncle Aaron, which is Miles' uncle, and Miles himself. Some pages was kind of confusing to read because I'll just show you why it was confusing. Like on this page, you're supposed to read it from the top and then from the top all the way to the right, and to the top all the way to the right, and to the top, instead of reading by the page and going down. So that was kind of confusing for me. I was reading this, and then I went down here, but then it didn't make sense, and then I realized I had to do it like this, and the page was kind of leaked on the other side. If you can see it, kind of leaked on the other side, but I didn't see it since it's a book. So I just read it the normal way, and there was a lot of pages like that. But once I knew, I went back to read it from the top and then how it's supposed to be read. So I mean that's the only problem I had with reading this comic. Other than that, it was a good storyline. I love Miles. He's a really good character. And I don't think it fit as a mini comic. I mean, it probably. All right, I take that back. It probably could take it as a mini comic of him trying to, you know, replace Spider-Man in like a shorter issue. So I think it will work as a mini comic. But I as far as the panels go, reading the dialogues is smooth. I read it smoothly. It transitioned from down being, so it was easy to read for the most part. It's just with the panel stuff, it kind of confused me. But with this story, it has a lot. I mean, I'm telling you, a lot of solid panels. But I mean, I can get why this solid panel. The spider is on him. This solid panel, he's oozing, you know, spit and saliva out. So I get why there's solid panels, but there's like 60 to, I'll say like 50 to 60 solid panels in the story. Like I said, flip it right. There's a next page. Him thinking. I mean, maybe you can do a caption on what he's thinking about, but you ain't have to like write solid panels. I mean, there's some issues, minor issues with it, but other than that, I can read this book again. It was really a good story to read. I would recommend this to anybody, especially a new Spider-Man, a different type of Spider-Man. I would recommend this to anybody. And a fun fact is he meets Peter Parker in real life, because Peter Parker comes back from another dimension, and he's able to meet and talk to him. Pause. Man, I'm
So I guess we'll commit to